trade wars have begun. And we're hunkered down in the VGBees bunker. I'm one of your hosts, John Warren. With me is my very special guest this week, friend and former colleague. You may know him from Fanbyte, from Game Informer, from appearances on Kind of Funny. It's the one and only Imran Khan. Hello, Imran.
Hello. I think trade wars have begun is the first words of one of the Phantom Menace.
Yeah. The trade. Oh, what is that opening crawl? Now it's gonna drive me crazy. Phantom Menace opening crawl. I think you're right. I think it's very close to that. Well, okay. Turmoil has engulfed the Galactic Republic.
That's underselling it now.
Yeah. Anyway, God, so much of that movie was about trade war. It's unbelievable. Like how
I remember Simpsons making fun of it. I'm like, oh, this is not an action movie. It's about politics.
Yeah.
And yet it seems to be the most prescient movie of the last 20 years.
Yeah, that movie gets a lot of flack, and I think rightfully so in a lot of ways. But I think in the hands of maybe a more confident writer and director, I want a Star Wars movie about politics. That's kind of fun, like Andor works for a reason. Like, anyway, we're talking about the real trade war, the very real trade war. Before we really get into the details of the last 48 hours, because it has been dizzying. The announcement of the Switch 2, and then we recorded yesterday with Charles Hart. We went 2.5 hours long on kind of the debrief of the Switch 2, so we won't necessarily get into a ton of that stuff. But really, since then, a lot has jumped off. Let's take that stuff out of the room for a second, because I haven't talked to you, Imran, in quite some time. How did you react to the hour-long Nintendo Direct on April 2nd, and also kind of the surrounding news in the hour or two after that?
So I liked the Direct. I thought it was like, this is how you launch a new system. Like, you do show people the things that they will be immediately interested in. Like, Mario Kart does in fact look great.
It looks great.
I watched that Treehouse thing, and I'm like, this is the Mario Kart I want. Donkey Kong looks great. Like, I am the only sicko in the games press for the Muso games, but I am a sicko for them, so I am excited for that.
Looks like it runs well.
Yeah,
which is more you could say about Age of Calamity. So
it's running at a higher frame rate than the previous games ran. So that is, if nothing else,
that's the bar.
Difference.
Right.
Also, like, completely random aside, like not random, but this is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I was talking to my wife about that Hyrule Warriors game. And she's like, it cannot be, it's going to be a what-if story because they need to get Link in there somewhere. You can't not have Link's moveset. But it occurred to me yesterday, there was that thing in Tears of the Kingdom that if you beat every shrine, you get an armor set of the ancient hero. And it's just a weird-looking guy.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
That dude is 100% going to be in that game.
Yeah,
he's going to use the Magic Sword. He will be the Link. And that alone is going to get me to be like, okay, yeah, I want to see this.
That's a really good point, because I didn't really it didn't even cross my mind when I watched that trailer 2 days ago. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. I mean, Rauru, like playing as Rauru, that's pretty exciting. So I'm like, yeah, that's great. But I think you're right. I think without a Zelda game without a Link doesn't really work. I mean, it's like it's funny. I enjoyed Echoes of Wisdom, but they're it didn't take long for it to be like, well, also, there's Link shit in this game, So, it'd be very strange without that for sure.
It is clear that they're doing the thing, because they showed the camera angle of like behind Zelda walking with Rauru. They were doing the thing everyone thought they were going to do with Tears of the Kingdom of like, oh, these segments will just be playable, and they didn't do that in the Tears of the Kingdom. I feel like they should have done it then.
They probably should have. Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I like the Direct. Enjoyed the Treehouse stuff. The ensuing tariff thing that happened after that was so. I don't know how much your listeners know about this. I had a stroke roughly 2 days after the election, and like one of the reasons I had that stroke was that shit was harrowing. Of like I've made a personal point to disengage from a lot of things because my health matters more than that stuff.
Yes.
But also it's very hard to disengage from that when it's just so in your face and always bad.
It's pervasive, yeah.
Yeah. So like the other day when they showed that, or I was watching that Trump press conference, they were saying all the things that made me go, I need to not watch this.
Yeah.
Like, or I need to not care as much about this because this is we're reaching Omega level terrible here.
It's really bad. Yeah, I for folks who didn't know, so April 2nd rolls around. We have the Nintendo Switch presser, 450 base, 500 with Mario Kart. I'm just giving you some bullet points in case you somehow missed it, didn't listen to the last episode, whatever. June 5th release. Japan only region locked consoles are cheaper, so that's also a message we can get into. $80 Mario Kart, that's going to send a signal to the rest of the industry no matter what prices do in the next year or so. And an April 9th pre-order date was set for the US. Now that's what they said on April 2nd. You had to meet some criteria to be invited, but that shit is moot. Now we'll get to that in a second. Later that day, I'm just going to read off some relevant things before we get into the discussion. These are additional tariffs as to what was already there in some cases. And when that is the case, I will make it clear. A 32% tariff on Taiwan. That's 3.5% of U.S. imports. A 26% tariff on South Korea. That's 4% of U.S. imports. A 46% tariff on Vietnam. That's 4.2 U.S. imports. If you didn't know that we import a lot of shit from Vietnam, and a lot of people didn't know that before a couple days ago. 24% tariff on Japan, 4.5% U.S. imports, and the big one is a 34 additional percent on top of the 20 already existing percent in China. Now that is a 54% total tariff for 13.4% of U.S. imports. We also put stuff on the EU and other places, Mexico. We put shit on everywhere. We put a 49% tariff on the Falkland fucking Islands. It doesn't make any sense, okay? But those countries I just listed, China, Japan, Vietnam, South Korea, Taiwan, vital for our imports of electronic goods. And that is why Nintendo did announce this morning, April 4th, that they will not be going forward with the April 9th pre-orders in the United States for the Nintendo Switch 2. The launch date of June 5th is unchanged, according to them, but they have no additional announcements yet. They said they want to assess the potential impact of tariffs and evolving market conditions. Breathe. Yeah. I don't want to stress you out, Imran. So if we're ever getting to a point where you got to tap out, just say so. But
I'm at the point where it's easier to laugh about this.
Sure.
Because if you don't laugh, you're gonna
cry. Yeah. Crucially, I asked you to be on this show today before your wonderful spouse posted a absolute banger of an article over on IGN, which you should go check out right now, about the ESA. We're saying what I think they should be saying and what everybody should be thinking. If you're focusing right now on the Switch 2, you're kind of wrong. You need to be thinking bigger about what this signals to everyone. We will probably focus on the Switch 2 in this conversation somewhat, but expanding from that, this is a moment where it reminds me of COVID, Imran, when like a lot of people weren't taking this seriously until national basketball player Rudy Gobert went to a press conference, joked about having COVID, touched all the microphones, and it turned out he had active COVID at the moment. And then they shut down sports like the next fucking day.
Yeah.
That's what this feels like to me, is Nintendo saying, no, we're not moving forward with this shit. And now a lot of people are paying attention to the stuff that weren't before.
Yeah, like that Nintendo thing, the reveal was messy in some ways. Like
it was.
A stream didn't work. They didn't announce the price.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was messy, but it was like within lines of where you expect all this stuff to be. But this, like, they did not expect this wrench to be thrown in. Nobody in the video game industry, not me, not Matt Piscatella, not Daniel Ahmad, nobody thought they were going to put a 46% fucking tariff on Vietnam. So, like, the reason that it's significant, and you mentioned this before, that we get a lot of stuff from Vietnam.
Yeah.
In 2017, I believe, as the Switch was rolling out, Nintendo was like, hey, Trump's talking a lot about China.
Yep.
We should move things to Vietnam and Cambodia.
Yes.
just in case he put tariffs on China.
Right.
Nobody saw it coming. He was just going to go, no, fuck it, all of it.
Yeah, all of it, all of it. And I want to make this like that's such a good point. I'm glad you brought it up. Is like like you can look down this list of all these countries, and it's a ton of countries, and you go, well, I just don't have any sort of sense of what comes from these places. But you're exactly right. When China is the source of manufacturing for things like electronics, for plastics, that's a really huge one. For a lot of things that make the stupid little boxes that we play video games in, and a bunch of other stuff. Um, a lot of these, U.S. companies, China side companies are looking at other places they can manufacture to prevent something like this from happening. That's why people look at Taiwan. That's why people look at Vietnam for manufacturing, things like this. So these sweeping tariffs, including that massive one on China, it's not only getting Nintendo to, and this is maybe a question for you. Do you think they're reassessing the actual price point of this thing as we're going through this?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think so. When they announced this thing, like, hey, we have to assess tariffs, people were like, I thought they already built in the tariffs to this price, which they did and they didn't. They like
They did a little.
450. Yeah, 450 is the
Yeah.
price. I think that they were like, okay, tariffs are going to affect us. We don't want to
Yeah.
raise the price after announcing it. Let's like put this in. But I think that's why everything else is so expensive, so they can subsidize taking like less of a profit on this than they intended.
Yeah.
Now they're going, okay, we're about to make a loss. We cannot take a loss on this. We have
Mhm.
to, like, an $80 Mario Kart, as successful as that will probably be, as people, even though they're like complaining about it, will probably buy that. It's
Yeah.
not going to subsidize an entire, probably $200 loss on this thing.
No.
So I think they are going to come back and say, yeah, now it's 550, now it's 600. Now it might be more than that. And when it goes up that amount, it's not going to come back down. Like, it won't come back down for multiple reasons. It will come back down for like corporate greed. It will come back down for price confusion. It won't come back down because you can't assume Trump isn't just going to put the tariffs back.
Right.
Like, he's a madman. You have to assume that this is only going to get worse.
Yeah.
So, like, I think they're looking at how do we sell this thing for X number of years at this price. And there's a if I were John Nintendo, if I were Furukawa sitting in my office, one,
Yeah.
I would be throwing knives at a picture of Trump. Uh,
Right.
but two, I think the two options on the table are raise the price just in America by a lot, which is their
Yeah.
biggest market by a fair amount,
Mhm.
or you raise the price everywhere a little bit. And that's neither option actually makes people happy. Like, obviously,
No.
higher prices are not going to make people happy, but like, if I were a European, I would not be happy that I'm going to pay more for a Switch 2 because America's fucking things up.
No, and you're right. So over the past few years, Nintendo's market share by region really is about roughly a third of their total is from the United States alone. Europe has about a fifth, a fourth, something like that, and then Japan has roughly the same amount as Europe. So Japan fairly insulated from all of this. That's why they got this cheaper price. I don't expect the price to increase just because that's happening. I think it'll probably stay the same. Which I thought, honestly, what was so funny about this whole thing is like the Japan only region locked pricing was, I thought, the most communication they would give us directly to Trump. Like that was such a very like Eastern Asian like business way, subtlety way of saying, hey, like, you guys are out of your fucking minds. Like, we've got this thing figured out. We don't need to like react strongly to global markets just within our own walls. Like, we're good. But y'all aren't. Like, I thought that was the most they would communicate about this. And now today, they've said very explicitly this is because this is like a totally unprecedented place to be. I thought that was kind of the most they would communicate, but they've been very clear about that now. But to your point, yeah, I would be stunned, but not, I guess, surprised if they increased it for everywhere else except for Japan. Um, and what do you think the upper limit of that price is, and what do you think actually the average consumer in the US is willing to spend on Nintendo's next console.
I think they are probably one thing they're probably doing right now is they're probably pouring over the numbers from the reveal stream in the treehouse, and they're looking at like what is the engagement with this thing right now. Are people going to be more receptive to the idea of paying more for it?
Right.
And in that sense, the what I would say was rather fruitless spamming of the chat of constantly saying lower the price might actually be effective because they
Yeah.
might be looking at it and say like, okay, people are already price sensitive. We
Yeah.
cannot raise it too much. I
Right.
think they will. There is no world in which they do not raise it. I don't think.
I agree with you.
But I suspect maybe the upper limit is probably $5.99.
Yeah, I think it's $600. Yeah.
Yeah. I think taking it beyond that gets them too close to like GPUs and PS5 Pros and all that stuff. That's a market they don't want to be in right now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think people have smartly pointed out that Nintendo seems to be kind of pointing themselves at direct competition with the burgeoning market of handheld PCs and PC gaming more than they are really interacting with the PlayStations and Xboxes of the world. And yet, they still don't want to get into that upper echelon of price point like a PS5 Pro. I think you're exactly right. I do think that upper limit is probably 600.
Mhm.
And the thing that's so funny about people being like lower the price, we're price sensitive already, are, and we talked about this yesterday on the show, are kind of yelling at the wrong people. And I'm not saying we have to hand it to Nintendo or give corporations grace about this stuff, but like at some point, the things they're making flat out cost a lot more because our government is making them cost more.
Yeah.
And there's no room to go. The box doesn't exist unless they can make some sort of profit on it. And that is ultimately I think why it's been frustrating even to see some industry reactions to this instead of kind of looking at the market conditions and what we could do to change those things. We're going, this is bullshit that Nintendo's charging this much for it. It's like, I don't know, man. Look around. Like, what the fuck do eggs cost now? I mean, what can one banana cost, Michael? $10? Like, this is that kind of territory where no one seems to be really grasping, like, why things are increasing in price when it's like, you need to be politically engaged to understand this stuff. And it's getting crazy that I feel like people aren't getting that message strongly enough yet, and I'm
Yeah.
hoping today helps with that, but I don't know if it will.
Right. So like, recent era had a thread on this, and I've been watching this thread because there are people who are like they understand what's going on, but there's
Yeah,
also a lot of people who don't, and
really
like
don't.
they really don't. And I want to
Yeah,
read this one sentence post from like recent era that I think kind of encapsulates the level that people don't understand things. And someone says, in theory, how fast could Nintendo move production of hardware to Ohio? 2 to 3 months? And I think like
uh, but that's it. That's the baseline,
yes, that's like
and that's
people think
really
that.
scary. Yeah,
Like, and the thing is, this is not a Nintendo problem. This is an everyone problem. This is Sony is going to run out of PS5 Pros they stocked in America. I would say probably by the end of the year, if not far sooner. And at that point, that thing is going to raise in price. That will be $1,000 PS5 Pro before the end of the year.
yeah. Well,
Like,
yeah,
they can't not. They can't absorb the cost of the tariff,
yeah,
and they can't like the idea Trump says is that he wants everyone to move everything to America,
yes,
but there's no way to do that. Like even if you could, in theory, make it in a year, move all that production to America, that would take so much more money to do that. Like not just build it out, but to pay people to do that. Like people in Ohio get paid more than people making your phone at Foxconn do,
we,
and
we
that affects things.
we're getting into some like really intersectional territory, and we should just tackle it. Like let's do that because this is a no judgment zone for our listeners right now. If you don't know why we can't just uproot the global manufacturing infrastructure and put it in the United States. I will try to break it down for you. One is that in the United States, we generally make more money to do the same jobs as basically anywhere else in the entire world. We do. We pay a lot for stuff. Our inflation is out of control. Our wages have been stagnant, but we still get paid better than people doing manufacturing jobs in factories in China. It's just a fact. I saw a conservative economist this morning talking about how bad these tariffs are and how bad the plan is, the quote unquote plan. There is no plan, but the quote unquote plan to move manufacturing to the United States. The idea that we would move our economy from higher paying jobs of a certain type to lower paying jobs of a certain type is just like counter to any economic theory that anyone would ever support. There's something so strange happening right now where if you told me that our government would be making massively anti-capitalist moves, I would go, ooh, interesting. Because my hope would be it would be replaced with something better, more equitable, and all of that stuff. Instead, what's happening are anti-capitalist moves that are not being replaced with anything except for just oligarchy, which is like
Yeah.
a totally like a maximalist idea, the end game of like the worst kind of capitalism you can imagine. Anyway, the point is that we won't move as an economy from higher paying jobs to lower paying jobs without suffering massive inflation, without suffering massive crises in being able to afford very basic things. We cannot just simply move these things here because we cannot afford to do it. We have outsourced all of this, and you can say that that's bad if you want, but it is what it is, and it's been a decently working thing for a long time, and we're just unwilling to deal with the consequences of setting things up that way with our current government. They're also lying to you. That's not really what they want. What they want is to crash our economy so the top 5% of people get richer and all of us are basically just like at their whim. I'm not joking. That's not a fucking conspiracy theory. That's actually what's happening. And any idea that they're trying to get manufacturing started here is bogus. And I'll say one more thing and then I'll shut up for a second. If that was really the plan, Donald Trump would have started building the infrastructure before destroying our ability to get all of these goods here in the United States. He would have been investing, spending taxpayer money on setting up this infrastructure so that we wouldn't go from those higher paying jobs to lower. We would build some sort of infrastructure where we'd be able to take on a certain percentage of manufacturing globally that we were not before. Okay, sorry. Imran, what do you think about all of this?
So at the heart of this is honestly just American exceptionalism, because
Right. Yeah.
people assume because we are America, because we're the global leader for not that much longer, like
Right.
that we have every resource that is necessary for a thing.
Yes, correct.
We cannot just straight up cannot produce a Switch 2 with all the things that are made in America.
No.
Like
No.
so like global tariffs affect that even if you assembled the entire product in Ohio, they would still like you still need to import like the plastic, the semiconductors, the silicon that goes into that
Yes.
stuff.
Yes. Yeah. A good interview this morning with some people who make tabletop games. I can't remember where I read it. I'll find it and put it in the show notes. But that industry's fucked
Yeah.
right now. Like they like you can manufacture plastic here, but not in any sort of timetable that would work for anybody, and also not at the price that works for anybody. It would have to take a game that costs $20 now, and they would have to sell it for literally $40. It is doubling the cost of a lot of these things. So if you want to manufacture a Switch 2, be prepared to pay $850 for that here in the United States with the existing resources we have, and it may not even happen for a long time, and the supply would be so low that you'd never be able to get one. Anecdotally, I'll tell a quick story. Some people that my parents know were complaining about the fact that, like, yeah, all their booze is going to cost more now. And someone said, oh, yeah, but we could just drink American wines from American wineries. And there was an interview with a wine person in fucking Napa Valley or whatever. And he's like, where the fuck do you think we get the glass to make these bottles? It's not here. It's fucking Mexico. And it's like, we don't have any of the fucking infrastructure to do any of this shit, to switch any of our our favorite pastimes. We have none of it.
We
to
don't
do
even
those
make
things.
the wine making barrels here.
No, we don't make the barrels. The barrels come from fucking Europe.
Yeah. And that's how you get the taste of wine, is aging them in a barrel. Like, go back to video games for a second. Everyone thinks, oh, like Take-Two's an American company. Tariffs won't affect them. Where do you think they make the fucking discs? It's in Mexico.
Right. Yeah. It is something that, again, no judgment zone. If you're coming to this conversation for the first time, welcome. Of just like, this is how the world economy works, and this is how we have developed this totally false sense of exceptionalism that you discussed already. It's okay if you didn't know these things, but you need to pay attention, because this is really important that now the people in charge that you I did see someone this morning say that Nintendo made this political.
Oh,
And it
yeah, I
made
saw
me
that.
want to jump through a window because it is, of course, the opposite. And yes, am very personally worried about the Switch 2, because I'm a person of immense privilege. And I'm sad that I'm now thinking like, oh God, now this thing is going to be expensive and blah, 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 blah. But it's so much bigger than that.
Yeah.
So much bigger.
I guess like the comforting thing I can say to people who are still like kind of understanding this could have been worse. There is room for this to get worse.
It is. Yeah, there
the
is.
less comforting thing is it probably will take up that room eventually. It will probably become that worst case scenario, because like let's say tomorrow Trump does decide he's making noises today about taking Vietnam's tariffs down to zero, which he says a lot of things. But the problem is he says a lot of things. Mm-hmm. So if you're Nintendo or Sony or Microsoft, who also has their consoles manufactured across the ocean, then you can't trust whatever change he's making, because he will just change it back. And so like you were still assuming that they are going to, like, 46% may not even be the ceiling, that it could just get worse. And that's the new normal.
And I mean, from a small business or a big business perspective, that kind of instability of not knowing the environment, the market you're waking up to, like not knowing that, is going to begin to make everyone bearish, in the sense that they will start to commit to less. They will start to not be upfront about the decisions they're making. They will start to protect themselves against the instability of pricing by making their things more expensive, even if Trump goes up and down with these tariffs, with these policies, whatever. This kind of instability in and of itself is a way to get people on shaky ground and to, quite frankly, destabilize the economy and everything else that we're doing. There's also the fact that, like, even if we had the infrastructure here in the United States, the labor force is not exactly there, and we're doing everything we can to ensure that any immigrants that come here could not possibly get those jobs either, because we're trying to get every single person out of the country that that isn't white. It feels like, actually. Mm-hmm. So there, just everything leads to instability. And it's going to lead to massive price hikes and inflation for every single good you can imagine. Not just video games, even though that's the reason I think everyone is freaked out today.
I think no one expected to hit their luxury goods, at least this fast.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And like, video games have actually been remarkably not price sensitive, but like
It's
they
resilient.
resilient. Yeah, like
Yeah.
because it's a market that tends to benefit when
Right.
the cost for everything else goes up.
Right.
Because like during COVID price jacking and all that other stuff, video games
Very
became more
healthy.
popular or successful than ever.
Yep.
But because like this is the first time people are going, oh wait, they are having to react to the market in a way that they have not had to before. Like
Correct.
maybe game prices went up $10, $20, which grand scheme of like that's a lot, but also
It's a
grand scheme of
lot.
things, not that much.
Sure.
But like this is like if everyone remembers movie tickets being cheaper when they were kids.
Right.
Imagine if when you were 8 they were $5, and then when you were 10 they are $35. That's
Yeah.
where things are going for video games.
It's a very big leap. I think that's a really good way to frame it. Is like, we we have become used to the boiling the frog method of price increases that like Netflix has been doing for the past like 15 years. Starting at this like rumble of $9, and now it's up to what, fucking $21 or whatever for an ad-free thing. And that's over like a 15-year period, but you're right. Now it's accelerating for video games in a way that I don't think people are generally prepared for. Um, and certainly, if you buy groceries and goods for your homes, you're starting to also see that as well. We made a point yesterday to say, like, I hope you like mangoes. You probably won't be able to get a fucking mango in like 2 months,
Mhm.
um, which is crazy. Like, it is just crazy to think about. But there are things that we will just not have for a while this year because of this stuff happening, and I don't know how long it takes us to get back to where we are. It kind of depends on how we react to things as a nation. Just gonna put that out there
We're
and
really
leave
bad
it.
at reacting.
We are really bad. I mean, it's one of those things where it just feels like we go, well, what we're looking around. I'm guilty of it too. I'm looking around going like, well, what do we do? Feels like there's some obvious things we could do, but we're not doing any of them. And I don't know what it's going to take. And naively, I think when I woke up and saw this news, I was like, maybe this is it. But actually, as the day goes on, I'm like, I don't know what the event will be. I think this feels like a big one because you're right. When it hits luxury goods and it hits people who haven't been paying attention, there's usually an intersection there. But yeah, I just have no idea. Do you think this thing actually does come out on June 5th in the United States? That's the other thing. They say it's unchanged, but I actually don't know if that's something that they mean.
I think it probably does, but at a smaller allocation for America than
Okay.
for everywhere else.
Okay.
Because my guess is they probably had about 18 million manufactured, like
Yep.
around there, and that proportion was probably like 6 million for Japan, 6 for America, 6 for Europe.
Yeah.
I would guess that number for America has probably been halved at best.
Yeah.
And I think like when pre-orders do come out, because I'm sure part of the delay in it was renegotiating the allocation.
Yeah.
I think when pre-orders do come out for America, they're going to go real fast, even though the ticket or the ticket price has probably gone up. So I think it might be a lot harder to find a Switch 2 in America than it will anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, which is tough. Yeah, maybe there'll be a switch to tourism in Europe to go get a Switch over there and bring it back, since that won't be region locked either. Only the
Yeah.
Japan one will. I
Just
don't know.
saying, lying into customs is a felony, but it's a felony you can probably get away with.
It's probably so. I don't know if they're going to be checking serial numbers on that thing
Yeah.
if they see it
Like,
on you. So who knows?
so what if you leave the box in the hotel room?
So what?
Okay,
It's
how are they
fine.
going to prove that?
Yeah, yeah. What are you gonna do? Bring you back and put you on trial? I don't think so.
Which is one reason I suspect maybe they might have the rest of the world subsidize the American cost a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a good point. I mean, I think that totally makes sense. All right. Any parting thoughts on this before I ask you about a couple other things?
Uh, let the it doesn't matter what radicalizes you as long as something does.
I think that's good. I think that's a fair. I think that's a fair place to leave this part of the
Yeah.
conversation.
Like,
It's
don't let people make you feel bad of like, oh, you're getting mad about video games and there's so many other problems. Get mad about whatever you want.
get mad about whatever you want. Like, I hope you do decide to go a little deeper once you're mad about this. But listen, if this is what brought you to the table, welcome. Like,
Yeah.
welcome. It's okay. Like, it's okay. You can live in a bubble. We are built to live in bubbles here in the United States. The bubbles have been made for us, and they're carefully constructed to keep us contained. And it's really rare to see outside of that. It really is. And you usually have to work a little bit at it to get out of that. And if you're brought to this moment because the Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders got delayed, hi.
Yeah.
Welcome to the resistance. It's fine.
Start with being mad about the Switch 2, then punch a Nazi.
Sure, yeah, that change should be very clear for people. So, no, that's good. Thanks for talking to me about this. I since I do have you, have you been playing anything lately that you particularly like or don't like? Either way.
I've been playing Xenoblade X, which I think is both a
Yeah,
good game and also like one of the most baffling and frustrating games I've played in a long time.
it's a weird game.
Yeah, like I understand now because I bought this game on the Wii U, but at the time I was I think moving just to San Francisco.
Yeah,
Like I had a lot going on in my life, so I didn't commit to it.
yeah,
And now I've actually
same.
committed to it, and I understand that it wasn't just the Wii U's fault. This game didn't catch on.
Right.
Like it is just a weird game. Like it's a game that has a story, but it's a strange story. It has
Mm-hmm.
it has a main quest, but really the side quests are what you care
Mm-hmm.
about. But also the side quests are weirdly designed.
Mm-hmm.
There's there's like I love doing bounties in games. That's one of my favorite parts
Sure.
of modern Final Fantasy games is going
Yeah.
for the bounty board of special monsters. One of the bounty monsters in this game is a spider that is just like on a cliff. And like to reach that spider and use like your sword on him, you
Mm-hmm.
have to like go through a weird platforming section that is it feels like you're doing speed running techniques to do that.
Mm,
And I understand why they thought, okay, this will mix things up. This will be interesting. But
yeah.
also at the time, I'm like, wow, fuck this. I don't want to do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
But I'm also still I put 44 hours in that game this week. So
It's
good.
fun. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a big, it's like they do fun, big scaled environments in a way that's interesting. They've got the fucking scales in this one, which is fun. It plays with scale in a different way than some of the other Xenoblade games. Yeah, I like this game. New Los Angeles is like super fucking funny as an idea to me
Yeah.
for some reason. Just when they
That
give you the big
music though.
tour and yeah, oh,
That
I know,
uh
I I know. I know it's weird. It's a weird game. But I dig it. It reminds me of the weirdest aspects of that team. It reminds me of Xeno's Saga in a way that the Xenoblade Chronicles games don't.
mhm.
So yeah, if you haven't picked up Xenoblade Chronicles X yet, the definitive edition on Switch, it is good. I was surprised, going back for a moment, I was surprised that Xenoblade X was not part of the enhanced group,
Yeah.
and because deep in the code, some people found kind of a 60 frames per second mode, which would indicate that maybe there's a plan to get that working, and it may just not work until Switch 2, but nothing was announced. I was kind of surprised about that.
I kind of wonder if they are going to use like Switch 1 game updates
Yeah.
as like advertising for newer games. Like
Sure.
Nintendo Direct, they announced a Xenoblade 4 or whatever, and then
Right.
like, and here's updates for all the Xenoblade games on Switch.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Like, because they do
Yeah.
that sometimes with NSO games or stuff like that. Like, you know, we were putting the original Mario Land on to coincide with this stuff, or how they
Yeah.
put the Donkey Kong games on NSO recently.
Yeah.
I I have to assume that game came out so close to Switch 2 announcement. They
It did.
have there's something there because like especially after playing Assassin's Creed in 60 FPS for like 50 hours,
Yeah.
it it feels clunky to me. But
Hmm.
speaking of which, Assassin's Creed, I'm not going to spoil the ending for people
Okay.
for that game. I will say, do you know how remember the War of the Worlds Tom Cruise movie? How it
Yeah.
just felt like they ran out of film at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
How,
Yeah.
yeah,
Just yeah. They
that
just were
that
like,
is how
"Oh, that's
Assassin's
it.
Creed Shadows ends.
Okay.
And like I ended up talking to someone who worked on the ending
Hmm.
and they just shook their head and they were like, look, sometimes you can manage the chaos and sometimes you can't.
Ooh. Wow.
I assume they're going to
Interesting.
add on to that thing with updates, but It's like they took the Marvel post-credit sequence and just put it at the end of the movie.
Yeah, yeah. Just boop. Yep,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Very strange. How did you like that game? I know you were very frustrated with an optional boss fight
Yeah.
in Shadows, but overall, what did you think?
I went back and forth on it throughout the game.
Yeah.
I think beyond so the way JV Gwaltney put it, like former colleague
Hmm.
JV Gwaltney, is that you're having a nice, peaceful, serene time.
Hmm.
But a bird is constantly ramming into your head and just annoying you. Like
Yeah.
that is that game. It
Hmm.
is. It, I'm just enjoying myself. I'm having fun just stabbing guys. But there's
Yeah.
always just the annoying thing of like, oh, you can't fast travel in this area. No real reason why. Or
Yeah.
like for some reason holding this button is gonna make you leap up this wall that you didn't want to leap up. It's a lot of that, and I wish for as long as this game was in development that it were just a bit more polished.
Yeah.
I can see why they delayed it, and I'm really curious to play the pre-delay version and see
Hmm.
what it was
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
fixed.
What exactly was it? Yeah, I agree with you because I'm having a hard time with that. I'm not that far into it, probably only about 10 hours, but yeah, it's one of those things where I can get into a flow state in that game, and feel good about going through like a hideout and getting rid of guys, and like that's really fun. And this is a gorgeous game. I mean, holy shit, a really
Yeah,
pretty game.
absolutely, especially during
Um,
fall. Like fall is like
yeah,
the different seasons are I think beautiful, but
really
fall
cool.
looks amazing.
Fall's beautiful. It's just like this game is so gorgeous. I can kind of get lost in it. But you're right. There are just little annoying things that'll just swoop in out of nowhere to kind of pull you out of that mode, and it's frustrating. I mean, I feel like that's kind of how Ubisoft's open world design has always kind of felt. I just think I do like this game overall more than previous few Assassin's Creed games. But yeah, still some nagging bullshit that I wish they would iron out at some point.
I've also been
Yeah.
playing a game with my wife that I cannot talk about.
Okay.
Uh, Ask me again on April 10th.
Okay.
I can talk about it, but I will say, based on what she's played and what I have played with her, that may be one of the best games I've ever played.
Woo! Big praise. Okay. I'm
And I think you're
excited.
going to hear that praise from a lot of people.
I mean, if it's the same thing that people have been buzzing about for like a week or so, kind of privately
Probably is.
behind closed doors, then yeah, I mean, it sounds like we're about to get hit with a little bit of a surprise, like mega banger, which is kind of cool.
I think
I
there's going to
always
be a lot
love
of people
that.
who are like, I've never heard of this. And then
Yeah,
suddenly
I
it's going to
know.
pop off.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which I think is really fun. Yeah, we actually I'm not sure if I can say it because I think Ben actually said the name of the game out loud when we had him on. Um, but we almost talked about it at some point with someone who had some experience with it, but not any sort of like embargoed information. But now, yeah, it's getting so close. I think it's going to be really interesting to see. A new fun game pop off.
Mhm.
I will say, for my part, one of the games that I have looked at and started to play around with is Psycho Patrol R, which is the Cruelty Squad sequel. You can play
Ooh.
it over on PC. It's a really strange mech game, post bureaucrat apocalypse kind of game. Enormously strange, but I've been enjoying that in the very early going. I still have not really gotten myself through enough of Atomfall to have an opinion yet. But I'm also excited to jump into South of Midnight because I've heard from some people that that game's pretty good.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to, but just by looking at it, I think this game plays worse than a lot of people say it does. Like, just visually, I'm like, I don't think this game looks fun to play. But
Hmm.
I do think this game is gorgeous, and I do think this game has, like, a really interesting story to tell with good characters. It's talking about the American South, it's talking about blackness in the American South. I think that stuff is, like, super, like, not approached in games enough at all. So I am excited from that perspective, and a lot of really smart folks have had some nice crit this week about it, so you should go check out those things. I'll link some of those in the show notes. But yeah, excited to play that this weekend. Imran, let's get out of here. I'll let you
Yeah.
go. Yeah, let's go. What do you got to plug? Anything?
Uh, actually, nothing right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? That's kind of freeing, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's kind of nice not to plug something.
I
I
just
don't know.
exist. So
That's all you
follow
can
me on
ask
Blue
for.
Sky at I think Imran Khan. There we go.
Yeah, that's a good one. Imran, thank you so much. Like, come back anytime. Obviously, we'd love to have you back. And thanks for jumping on with me so suddenly today. That was really, really fun. Go to vgbees.com/join to join the hive. This has been a bonus episode. We are going to put it on the main feed because I do think it was enough of a squeakquel to yesterday's episode that it deserves to live alongside it, not just buried in the hive. That being said, if you like me doing more than one major podcast a week, you should join the hive. Go to vgbees.com/join. Join the hive. You can also ask us hive questions like Imran does most weeks. Asked us a really good one about Charles Hart
Yeah.
growing
I think I
in
should have tweaked the
size.
values on that. I think it should have been 1,000,000 per inch.
It probably should have been because, like, I think Nikki and I both read it and thought it said 100,000, and we were like, "Okay, that's good." And then we realized it said 10,000. It's like,
I
okay,
think
so
honestly it was the wording of 10,000 per inch just made me laugh.
it is. It is funny. It's very funny. We did enjoy that. So, like Imran, you can ask us whatever silly or poignant question you want to every single week over on our Discord. All right, folks, this is probably it for me. I may still do a bonus this weekend, catch some of those hive questions I may have missed on the last episode, pick up some new stuff like how fucking crazy the SNK ownership is now,
Oh
thinking that they're going
yeah.
to put these characters in this Fatal Fury game. We'll probably talk about that on a bonus. But until next week, folks, keep on buzzing.
Bye.
Bye.